Hey, what's going on guys? Khordmaster's here, and in today's video we're going to be looking at the most requested features for Koala Sampler in 2022. So, as some of you guys know, I head up the Instagram account for Koala Sampler, right? And I thought it would be a good idea to like make a post and ask like, what is that #1 feature that you're looking for on Koala Sampler in 2022? I just love that question. I think that's really cool to be inspired. Some of these on here that we're going to go over I thought of. A lot of them I hadn't thought of. I just think it would be cool. And I should also make a point to say, this is not like I use Khordgadget a lot, right? I love Khordgadget. But doing a wish list for Khordgadget seems like such a pointless act. We're not getting updates on that app really ever. If we do, it's like a long way away. We know this app is being worked on a lot by Marek. And he's really doing a lot to bring some more excitement to the app and bring more features and things like that. So we could expect a lot of these are either in the works or will be in the works very soon. All right, anyway, let's get to it. So I sorted these comments from oldest to newest, so I'm just going to work my way up and pick out the ones and read some of these that I think are really interesting. So I started it off, right, Khordmaster, boom, there I am. Said I think it would be really cool to have a sample, store, or random sample button that applies a random sample from a designated folder to a pad. These would be great ideas to get ideas started quicker. And also I said something about default templates. So those are two major things for me. I want to be able to launch Koala Sampler, and as soon as I open a new project, I'm instantly able to start making music without necessarily using the microphone, right? Like have some drum pads that I always use, or have some samples that I always use, and have those ready to go. Now certainly you can do a, a file save as, and then save it as a template, and then open that up, and then make your music, and then save it as something different, title it differently. But I hate doing that. I just want to be able to open a new project and just it be a certain way that I want it. All while knowing I don't necessarily like having overly too much customization within a certain DAW. That makes things a little bit too, for me personally, like a little bit too, it takes away from the creativity a little bit for me. Like sometimes I like working within a certain constraint. All right, someone says EQ. I think that's a major one. Undo and redo buttons. So there are undo and redo buttons in the sequencer. I wonder if they mean in the sample page, like if you could undo like a cut or a chop or something. That would be pretty cool. This one says ability to add effects to individual samples, not just through resampling. Yeah, that would be really cool as well. There's a comment. These comments are going to come in, I'm sure, on my other accounts that I've managed, but that's fine. But just have some sort of option in the tools on individual samples. Yep, I think that's major. That would be super dope. Global start stop button. So I think that's, I don't know exactly what they mean by that. There's a play button that when you press it, it plays globally, I think, and when you press it again, it stops the music. Let's see what they said. The play stop buttons are only visible on the sequence. Oh, yeah. So to have them on the other tabs, that would be cool. Okay, I agree with that. Something like the rename button on 404, so I can only apply FX to certain pads. Yeah, that would be cool. So, you know, the effects, the performance effects are just so dope on this, and it would be cool to be able to have them only routed to certain pads. That would be definitely amazing. Option to group pads and mix buses. Live looper functionality on a pad. That sounds cool. Live looper functionality. Yeah. I'm not sure exactly what that encompasses, but the term's live looper to me, I love that. I love looping live. So however that could be implemented would be something interesting. Solo mute buttons are there already in a recent update. Step sequencer. So the piano roll, isn't the piano roll kind of a step sequencer? You can, you know, sequence stuff, steps. I think that's kind of there. Let me know if I'm missing something. Mastering, mixing, upgrade, that's a major one. A lot of people want to be able to use this app as their one app and not have to like send it somewhere else in order to like mix and master. So to have some more capabilities on that front would be really cool. Midi looping, okay. If you could sequence your sequences so you didn't have to trigger them to switch. Ah, that would be cool. So like you can press on the sequence. You can press on which sequences that you want to play in what order, and then it'll do this one twice, and then it'll do this one, and so you can kind of do that by adding to end and like manipulating it a little bit. But it would be pretty cool if you can just tap them, like hit an edit button and be like boom, 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 and then back here or something, and have it just cycle through that. So then you can go to the performance page and you can just let it cycle while you're just concentrating on performing. That'd be cool. Being able to play pads on banks A, B, C, and D in Koala freely with a MIDI control that only has 8 or 16 pads. That is limited. I'm not sure what they mean by this. Play pads on any of these freely with a MIDI control that only has 8. That is limited to MIDI assigning only between 2 banks. So how would you do that though if the MIDI controller can only assign a certain amount? I'm not too sure about that. Like choke groups but for effects, that's similar to what we talked about earlier. Simple mixer with the ability to add, yeah, that would be cool. Yep, that would be cool. I would like that, to add reverb, EQ, etc. I love the ability to save different MIDI mappings for different devices. That would be cool as well. I have different MIDI devices here. I got the off-grid MIDI control that I use all the time. I have the noise machine that I use all the time. And I got 10% off on either of those for you if you're interested. Details in the description and on the first comment below. As long as I remember to put it there, which I should. But yeah, these are great MIDI controllers, by the way. They work amazing with Koala Sampler. Let's see what else we got here. The ability to assign labels to pads in the MIDI view of Samurai. Labels, okay, we have that now. So instead of A1, you can assign it K for kick. Yep, we have that now, buddy. That's there, awesome. EQ and group mix bus velocity. So velocity will be interesting. So I've seen certain apps use handle velocity by, like, if you hit low on a pad, it's gonna make a lower sound, and the higher you hit, it's gonna be louder. And I think I've seen that on keys too, like on MIDI soft screen keyboards. Like if you hit low, it's louder, and then high, it's actually lower, because that mimics what happens on an actual piano because of the anchor point. Okay, but that's one way. And then I've seen another one where if like a square, if you hit in the center, the loudest, and anywhere around the center, it gets like lower and lower till you hit the edges. So that could be interesting. I personally probably wouldn't use that too much, but that could be interesting though. Effects automation, MIDI export. I'm just going to read these. Some of the ones that don't jump out that resonate to me personally, I'm not going to talk about, but the ones that do resonate, I will talk about. It'd be sweet to add markers to sample transients so you can shift and align them. Amazing app, by the way, slowly becoming my DAW of choice. This is a good one. I said that. Cool. Some light output effects like EQ and saturation. Yep, so that's something that we're seeing quite often here. 3-band equalizer. A lot of people want that. Again, being able to do more in the app without having to send it somewhere else. Group mix bus, AU3 support, ability to add change effects in perform mode. So AU3 support. And I apologize about the coughing. Day 5 of COVID, getting there. Today is like a thing coming up kind of day, so hopefully this wasn't a bad idea to make this video today. I just wanted to make it because it was on my mind. So hopefully you guys are bearing with me and enjoying the video, even though you're having to hear me cough. Okay, AU3 support. So if there is a way, I have so many AUV3 synths. And if there was a way to use those synths within Koala Sampler and not make it cumbersome, I'd be interested in that. Sometimes when you introduce AUV3, then it can be a little bit cumbersome, right? Bringing other apps in another app and all that type of stuff. That's why I don't use AUM that much, and I don't like using App Hub to sync and connect different apps together. To me, that's not sparking creativity for me. It's like, I like being able to just use the app itself for the most part. I know that might sound counterintuitive to a lot of you, but that's just kind of how I operate. Mixer with automations, tempo detect on the first recorded sequence so you can freely loop, then build. That would be cool. That would be cool. Share project. I think you can share projects already. Pretty sure. A graphic equalizer for each sample would be dope. A graphic equalizer. Yeah. So that's an EQ, another EQ request. Way to navigate all parameters with Midi so you don't have to use touchscreen with a hardware controller. Sequencer like Loopy Pro does. Linear sequencer for sequencer. Okay, EQ. Koala Sampler is almost perfect. A master limiter and some compression option would be incredible. Dope. An individual effects, edit, undo. For example, don't like the crop, just undo it. Yeah, so that would be cool. I think that would be cool too. An undo button on the sample page. Being able to apply more effects to individual samples in the edit section of the sample page. Some effects ideas are, oh, yeah. That would be cool. I just keep saying everything would be cool because they would. Ability to also sample while in the sequence page and not just the sample page. No, I don't think this would be good. I love the sequencer page because I can play the pads and I won't accidentally drag them. Yeah, I agree with that follow-up comment. Pad mute button on sample and sequence screen and AUV3 per pad. You got the keyboard already. Yep. EQ and sidechain. I love to see multi-level and multi-slice functions for a sample like on the S2400. You tease us with chocolate. I know you've been tinkering with the idea. I want that chocolate. I'm not sure what chocolate means. I need to know. Someone let me know in the comments. I think that's vanilla strawberry. That's another page of performance effects probably. I want Koala fully functioning on macOS as an AU or VST. Color-coded pads that are easier to rearrange. Color-coded pads. That would be cool. Yeah, okay. So you can have like your drums be red and your vocals be green. Synths, bass be blue. And yeah, that type of thing. That's pretty cool. Also, a auto capture feature like Ableton when you play stuff. Oh, that would be really cool as well. I love that auto capture in Ableton. You just messing around, you're like, oh, that's dope. And then you could just hit it and it just grabs it. Time stretching on keyboard, please. Volume fade in and out. Slicing by tapping on the pads. DJ mode like SP404 Mark II. That sounds interesting. I'm not as familiar with the SP404, but I heard the DJ mode is really cool in that. I like multi-mapping for various MIDI devices. Someone mentioned that before too. So if you have different devices, you don't have to MIDI map separately every time. That would be really helpful, I think, for people with multiple, like I mentioned. Key BPM detection for samples. Interesting. That would make things, a lot easier, I think, to, not have to do a time stretch, but you can just set the BPM to what the sample already is and then manipulate from there. I would like to be able to record the automation with mute solo buttons. So to be able to record when you're muting and soloing things to kind of, mix up the performance a little bit. Routing flexibility for effects, talked about that. Simple request for me, change that lazy metronome or make it option to change it. I don't know what they mean. Change that lazy metronome. Multiple sequence playhead. Have a 2-bar drum loop play along a 12-bar sample loop sequence. Interesting. I think I would suggest a little more in between levels on the effects. I notice when you go to use tone, it kind of steps in levels, if that makes sense. Otherwise, it's a great, fantastic app. There's a lot of great suggestions in here. Hi, more fluid sample edit. Okay. Oh, this person did a lot of ones here. Okay. Diverse the female beatmaker. Signable crossfader. Sampler marketplace would be. Yeah, sampler marketplace. Somehow like right in the app. You just go in there and there's a sample of the day. Sample of the day. This is one that everyone can use today to make something, and it's like randomly determined which one it's going to be used. I also like a radio, like to be able to, like a built-in radio within the app, and you can just sample anything. Like you have an endless supply, right? And like an internet radio, built-in internet radio in the app, where like a world radio, and that would just be like, what? You don't like, oh my goodness, yeah. Alright, rail EQ, vinyls, noise. Okay, reading loop points previously inserted into samples, sustain pedal support. Interesting about sustain pedal. Possibility to customize the names and colors. Names you got, colors probably eventually. Independent effects on each pad, a nudge time shift button. Buffer, shuffling, launch mode for a pad can move from a granulation to chopping sounds like transients. That's interesting. One thing I really miss is support of pitch bend wheel and MIDI controllers. Okay, fine-tuning cropping points like a zoomable wave. So I just zoom in and then I find it and then I zoom back out. That kind of works well for me. Control pitch and parameters for all pads grouped together. Zero crossing and sidechain. Option for individual timing and quantization control. Batch pad editing. Save and open groups inside song. That means what? Save and open groups. So you can have like a group of pads, like drums, drum A or synths or something, and you can just automatically bring those in. That would be pretty cool. Loop crossfade. Note repeat button on sample page and EQ. Sample warping, auto chop samples preloaded in order on the piano roll. Locking, sample envelope, independent effects, create bus to route pads to individual, yep. Effects repositioning, please. What do they mean by that? Properly worded, I second this demand. Demand? Wow, okay. Effects repositioning. So you should be able to move, I think you mean the performance effects to a certain way. That could be cool, maybe, but I don't know if I need that. Sample key detection, ability to slice a sample after it's been stretched. That's interesting. What are people talking about? Stretch, then resample, then slice. That's a good one. Okay. Assign samples to groups, then assign groups to individual performance. Yep. Being able to tell which part of the loop the playback is on. It's currently impossible with loops that are playing, but I mean also for loops that are not playing. That makes sense. That's interesting. Pattern cues, grayscale mode. Oh, grayscale mode to make the whole thing gray. All right. Just one DV reader or EQ or audio to MIDI converter. Mixer page. I'm going to reposition how I'm sitting here. These are so interesting. Aren't these interesting, guys? Mixer page with EQ, sidechain compression. But since you asked, I think I'd use the option to apply an LFO to an effect. Micro adjustment button, mixer independent. I'm going to go through the rest of these a little quicker. I would love manual input on the volume. Undo button again. Try to make it possible to use MIDI keyboards and knobs to adjust sample chops, which you can already do. Play stop on every page because we need to stop playing samples no matter what page we're on. That makes sense. Koala effects on input. They're better than the input effects. I never use. Yeah, that's true. I never really use the input effects, and I feel like those koala effects on input would be so much better as well. That would be huge. Like, I don't know about you guys. Like, do you guys use the input effects? Because I just don't use them ever. I don't see a real application for most of them personally. Maybe I haven't been using them right. A real vinyl sim that doesn't distort. Messed that up. 404 Mark II just adds noise and filter. Automation, FX automation. Jesus. Yeah, very important. Needed update. Gain volume on each pad. Okay. The sample sequence and performance buttons. No more sample buttons if MIDI is plugged in. Pads A through D all receive MIDI from 16. An intro sequence. If you want an intro, that's just one bar. The second sequence always starts desynced. Hold effects. There's a lot of stuff here. Alright. Note mode on a second MIDI channel for simultaneous. Snap to beat your edit points in the same editor. Velocity. Strawberry and vanilla as a toggle instead of two buttons. Okay. Fat finger mode on the piano. Sometimes I have to zoom in. Batch audio input. That would be good. Be nice to label pads. Yep, you can do that now. The ability to add something like a reverb to some samples and a different effect to others. Yep. That's a common request here for sure. Perhaps a mixer mode where you could just adjust sample. Let me read through a couple more of these. And I love a TR style sequencer. Time stretching on keyboard. MIDI file import. Hardware version of nice pads. Looking for a more straightforward way to mix. Tap tempo, needs to remember at least 10 taps and average out, then start forgetting the first taps. EQ, more mix and master features, change pad colors. A mixer page where you could mix EQ. 64 pads view would be pretty cool, I think. It's interesting. Select multiple samples to edit at once. That would be helpful. What I was missing today while playing Koala on commute: export of stems with volume panning. For performance, when pressing stop playing sequence, sample that is currently playing plays and double tap full stop. Oh, so you can stop it fully. Yeah, that would be cool. And EQ, of course. Hands down, a sack holder. I don't know what you mean. Pitch and key detection of samples. Ability to use AUV3 effects inside standalone Koala would be cool. Per pad effects. EQ and granular sample play. A way to trigger 2 or more pads when hitting only one pad, similar to pad link on the SB404. Zoom in on waveforms on Mac. Be able to automate everything. Midi out. Group mute and solo. Please let us save and load kits. I spoke with the devs of KitMaker app and they would love to implement a machine kit to Koala export. This way we could use our machine kits with Koala Sampler as AUV3 and Cubase, etc. Would be a game changer for me. Sounds good. A randomizer option for pattern sequences in a simple click. Honestly, the next feature I want to see is cloud syncing so that I can work from my desktop to my mobile flawlessly. That would be pretty cool because I have 2 iPads and my phone too. That would be cool to, and that is doable because Core Gadget has that. I can switch between the two and it's cloud sync and it's really, really cool. The top scrolling bar on the piano roll should trigger horizontal zoom and pushed master limiter. Okay, an undo button. ADSR envelope. Improve sample browser. So I've been using the sample browser differently. I don't use audio share. I disable audio share. I use the new slide out thing that they implemented, and I changed the view from grid view to list view, and that's pretty good. I would like to be able to just tap or double tap and have it just add to the next, but you can press and hold and drag, and that works as well. So that's a pretty quick way to get this stuff in there. Better interface for sequencer. Really hard to tap it sometimes with my small phone. I'd love to a Koala video app or some kind of video playback. Swap sequences. Video and Koala. That's pretty cool. Everything is pretty cool. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. How many times did I say pretty cool? If someone could tell me how many times and prove it, how will you be able to prove it? I don't know, because I'm not going to certainly count. But yeah, let me know how many times you think I said it, and we won't be able to know if it's true or not. So that's a pointless request, I think. Alright, being able to hold or latch individual effects. The ability to live record scratches would be amazing. That's dope. Ability to add the record in effects to imported audio. Make it free. Okay. Select samples to export, so more than one at a time, but not at all the same song. Layered sample cells for round robin sampling and playback. So there's a lot of ones on here, guys, that are just really interesting. And I think the ones that I saw and heard a lot, the most on here, are EQ. And I think that having some type of way to have like the radio, I think, you know, built in, and AUV3, like sounds that are already in there, I think would be really cool. And it's just fun to speculate. It's fun to kind of talk about the things that you think will make your music making experience in your app of choice, in your music app of choice, just more enjoyable, and spark some fresh creativity. And like I said to open the video up, like, it can happen. These things can happen. And, you know, I know Mark is hard at work on making some exciting, you know, changes and just enhancements to the app. I'm going to go use it right now. I feel inspired to make some music in Koala Sampler right now. And so hopefully you guys, you know, do as well. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I enjoyed making it. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. Before I let you go, if you guys stayed to the end of this video and this is your first time on my channel, my name is Khordmaster, as I mentioned earlier, and this channel is all about my music making journey. A lot of the stuff I do on here is about Koala Sampler and other iOS music making apps and just mobile music making gear. I also have non-mobile music making gear like my Roland Phantom keyboard behind me there, and my digital piano upstairs. So yeah, I'm just all about sharing stuff with you guys. And one of the things that I want to start doing sooner than later is start teaching you how to play chords for your musical compositions. So if that's something that you're interested in, please let me know in the comments below as well, because I want to make content that I'm excited about, but also that you guys are going to find helpful. Like, that's important. Later for the days of me just making stuff just to make it, like, it needs to be strategic. If I'm going to do this, it needs to be done a certain way. So if that's something that you're interested in, feel free to drop your email on my website, Khordmaster.com, and I would love to see you there. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate every single person who took the time out to watch, and hope you guys enjoyed, found it entertaining, insightful, all that good stuff. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one, all right? Take care.